Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
And we're back. It's Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show from New York. Kelsey Bolar, my special guest. And Kelsey, you know, kids are pretty resilient. And I remember a time with my 11-year-old that I just wanted to bounce off of. He's my creative, but he's my deep, deep feeler. My other two are hardcore thinkers. They're logical math types, but he feels and empathizes. And I remember coming out of a break and going into the kitchen to get something, and he was eating lunch, and he was just in tears. And he said, "Dad," he goes, what are we going to do about it?" And I had already been making contributions on a somewhat regular basis to CSI. And he said, "That's not good enough. We need, if we can do more, we need to do it." And so as a family, we kind of sat down and said, what does our budget allow? What are we going to do? And we came to the decision for us, and I don't put this on anybody else, this was just what was right for us. We decided that out of every month's budget, if we can afford to do all the fun things that we get to do, speaking of privilege, if we get to do all those fun things, certainly we can spare a little room in our heart for the women that are going through this. And so $250 a month comes out of the McCullough budget, even before I really see anything else. And we make sure that another woman has found her freedom. Friends, those of you watching or listening, the history on this is at their peak, there were about 185,000 slaves that the Northern Arabs had taken from South Sudan. We believe there to be about 35,000 now, which would mean that CSI, because they're the only group that's addressed this, has seen freedom to about 150,000 of those. But there have been some children born into slavery. Many times the slave masters wouldn't allow those kids to come because they were considered offspring to the slave master. But for this year, the first time, we've been able to liberate some of those children as well, which is a very exciting prospect. And so tonight, as you're listening to Kelsey and me, and you're evaluating what am I going to do, just think you could be setting a brand new life in a brand new direction that they would never even know without your generosity. 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010, or bringherhome.org. Kelsey, I want to ask you about, you mentioned the American left and kind of how they view these things. You know, when you look at the anti-Semitic tropes that are going on college campuses, in many ways they're anti-female, because they just don't take into consideration at all what the plight of women in those situations are undergoing. As you look into 2024 and as you see kind of globally the situation, and you're a contributor to the Independent Women's Forum, what are the goals that you hope are most addressed in way of women's rights and women's advancement in the days to come?
Well, first off, we are not without hope, and that in itself is encouraging. We need to remember this problem. Those numbers you just read off are overwhelming. They give you goosebumps to hear, but we are not without hope. And in order to protect women, we have to be able to define women, to say what a woman is. And unfortunately, the left, from our Supreme Court justices to our lawmakers to the teachers educating our children in schools, are either unwilling or unable to do that now. So there's a huge effort to define women under law, and this is simply an attempt to get women our dignity back. It's a basic acknowledgement of who we are, of our bodies and ourselves. And in order to protect women internationally, we need to be able to say what a woman is. I do fear that the ripple effects of sort of the gender ideology movement is erasing women as a whole, and women are of course, needed in society. And I think it's a dishonor to the plights of women internationally to not be able to simply stand up and say what a woman is.
Well, how can we credibly criticize Islamist regimes that punish women for just being when we don't value the distinction that women bring to our lives in the West. Like it seems to me they can just point their finger back at us and say, "Are you ridiculous?" And that's kind of what we've become in their eyes.
Right. And you also have to be aware of the way that Islamist regimes treat any of these gender identity issues. There's zero tolerance there. If you identify as transgender, you simply are gay, your life is at stake. We know these killings exist. So again, this is recognizing the privilege that we have in the United States, and this isn't about white privilege. This is about the privilege of being an American citizen, being able to use your voice and being able to use your voice to stand up for women. And you can't do that if you can't define what a woman is.
No, that's well said. Friends, just a few minutes left in the broadcast tonight. And what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself the question, what can I do? And if it's nothing more than just pray and raise awareness, then please do that. But I know that there are many of you that could pick up a phone right now, 888-342-1010, and give the best Christmas present possible to an enslaved Christian woman that has been forced to remove her religion, her faith, many times her name, her identity, her own sovereignty over her body, as she has lived in slavery. And we can make a difference right now. 888-342-1010 or bringherhome.org. Kelsey Bolar,
Hey, Kevin,
I'm always grateful. Yes.
If any of your listeners are husbands, you might want to think about buying your wife, contributing to this as a Christmas gift to your wife, because that is a stocking. That is a present in my stocking that I would appreciate for years to come and would have far more meaning than any other gift under the tree this year. Just a little hint for the husbands out there.
That's a great idea. That's a wonderful idea. And I'm like one of those guys that I don't need anything. So what can I do to use this time to make someone else's life better? Kelsey Bolar, thank you for all your work at the Independent Women's Forum. Thank you for this personal passion of yours, and thank you for sharing it with us tonight.
Thank you, Kevin.
Kevin McCullough coming right back from Times Square. Don't go away.